On December 23, 1944, from 19,000 feet over the Ardennes forest, Hamann Georg-Peter Eder observes a solitary P-51 Mustang beneath him, smoke streaming from its engine cowling. The American plane is wobbling, dropping altitude in uneven spurts. Eder tracks the range through his gun sight, 1/200 met and narrowing. This is a familiar hunt. He has done it 78 times. The Knight's Cross he wears confirms his record. Eder signals his Schwarm, 4 Focke-Wulf 190s, arranged in a finger-4 formation, execute a textbook peel-off, diving on what looks like simple prey. Following them, 5 additional FW-190s from the second Schwarm dive, their engines screaming as they punch through the sparse December clouds. The American pilot is 24-year-old Second Lieutenant William Shomo. Just 6 months prior, he was repairing tractors on his family's farm near Jeannette, Pennsylvania. Now, he has 3.5 confirmed victories and a compromised oil cooler that could cause his Packard Merlin V1650 engine to seize at any time. Eder is unaware the smoke is not from combat damage. He is unaware that Shomo's wingman, Lieutenant Paul Lipscomb, is circling 4,000 feet higher, poised for a perfect ambush. He absolutely does not know the faltering Mustang is a lure, or that the farm boy flying it mastered deflection shooting by hunting pheasants with a 12-gauge shotgun over Pennsylvania AS wheat fields. The events of the next 6 minutes will result in 9 destroyed German fighters, the death of one of the Luftwaffe's most seasoned aces, and a Medal of Honor citation studied by military analysts for the following 80 years. By late December 1944, the Luftwaffe is dying in the frigid skies of Western Europe. Germany's unexpected Ardennes offensive, which would become known as the Battle of the Bulge, is Hitler's last gamble to divide the Allied forces and compel a truce. For this desperate offensive, the Oberkommando der Luftwaffe scrapes together every fighter squadron available, even pulling pilots from the defense of the Reich itself. Operation Bodenplatte, the huge New Year's Day air offensive, is in its final planning stages. But the Luftwaffe's immediate task is simpler and more savage: gain local air superiority over the Bulge salient just long enough for panzer columns to secure their objectives. The issue is quantity and quality. The American P-51D Mustang now controls European airspace, possessing a combat radius over 1,000 miles with drop tanks. Its Packard-built V1650 engine produces 1,490 horsepower at war emergency power, achieving 437 mph at 25,000 feet. 6 50-caliber Browning machine guns provide a combined firepower of 3,600 rounds per minute. Crucially, the Mustang has the range to escort heavy bombers to Berlin and return, a feat no German fighter can replicate. German pilots who survive meetings with Mustang formations detail the psychological toll. Oberleutnant Heinz Knoke writes in his combat diary, "The American fighters are everywhere. We are outnumbered 5-1 on good days, 15-1 on bad ones. They have fuel to follow us to our own airfields and strafe us while we land." The statistics confirm the terror. In November 1944 alone, the 8th Air Force claims 458 German aircraft destroyed in air-to-air combat. Luftwaffe records concede the loss of 329 fighters that month, with 214 pilots killed or missing. Production cannot replace the aircraft. Training cannot replace the men. Yet the Focke-Wulf 190 is still a lethal adversary when flown by veteran pilots. Its BMW 801D radial engine generates 1,700 horsepower, giving the FW-190 a better roll rate and faster dive acceleration than the Mustang. With 4 20mm cannons and 2 13mm machine guns, it can destroy a P-51 in one accurate burst. Below 15,000 feet, where the majority of combat over the Ardennes happens, the FW-190 maintains tactical superiority in speed and armament. Hamann Georg-Peter Eder is exactly the type of veteran the Luftwaffe cannot spare. He transferred to the Western Front from the Eastern Theater in mid-1944, carrying hard-earned expertise in deflection shooting and vertical combat. His 78 confirmed victories include 12 four-engine bombers, high-value targets that earned him fast promotions and Germany's highest awards. Intelligence reports from December 1944 outline the Luftwaffe's tactical doctrine for the Ardennes offensive: aggressive swarm formations, hunting lone Allied fighters, and avoiding large engagements that favor American numbers. Strike damaged planes, use weather gaps, and retreat before reinforcements can arrive. It is a doctrine created from desperation, intended to inflict maximum harm while protecting Germany's shrinking pool of veteran fighter pilots. What this doctrine fails to consider is the BOP farm boy factor. American pilots who gained mechanical intuition by fixing equipment that had to work, who honed situational awareness by tracking livestock on open land, and who grew up hitting moving targets when ammunition was expensive and a miss meant no dinner. The Luftwaffe's command, educated in the aristocratic traditions of Prussian military academies, repeatedly underestimates these men. They view American pilots as products of assembly line training, technically skilled, but missing the warrior spirit forged by years of strict selection and indoctrination. On December 23, 1944, that underestimation is about to be fatal. Georg-Peter Eder, as combat philosophy, is recorded in Luftwaffe training pamphlets from 1944. He champions the Schwarm's finger-four formation as it offers mutual support while retaining offensive flexibility. His go-to tactic against lone American fighters is a high side attack from the enemy's 7-ow blind spot, using a diving speed advantage with the sun at his back. Against a damaged plane, the method is simpler. Wounded prey cannot maneuver, cannot fight back, cannot flee. German tactical doctrine in late 1944 stresses this pragmatic cruelty. Oberst Johannes Steinhoff writes in Operational Directives, "We cannot afford long engagements. Strike hard and disengage. Every sortie must yield results that justify the fuel and pilot risk." For Eder and his staffel, the smoking P-51 below is exactly this kind of efficient target. A quick victory, costing little ammunition and exposing his flight to minimal danger. What Eder fails to consider is that American tactical doctrine has also changed. By December 1944, the 82nd Fighter Group, Shomo's unit, has employed what pilots call bait tactics. When a plane takes non-critical damage, the pilot can use his wounded bird as a lure if his wingman maintains tactical overwatch. Intelligence officers, analyzing German attack methods, note the Luftwaffe's predatory fixation on stragglers and damaged planes. The Americans inverted this aggression to create a trap. But standardizing the tactic means pilots must be willing to become targets. It means wingmen must hold position for agonizing minutes while their partner draws enemy attacks. And it demands complete trust between flight leaders and their number two. Records from the 82nd Fighter Group show Shomo and Lipscomb have flown 31 combat sorties together since September 1944. Their tactical synergy is noted in mission debriefs. Lipscomb typically holds an altitude advantage while Shomo attacks low-altitude targets. They then swap roles for mutual defense. Today, they are on an armed reconnaissance flight over the northern edge of the Bulge salient when Shomo's oil cooler is damaged by flak from German mobile anti-aircraft guns near Malmedy. The damage is real, but it is manageable, producing visible smoke without severely hurting engine performance. Shomo radios Lipscomb. Is it actual damage or a tactical opportunity? They have maybe 3 minutes to choose before German fighters intercept. Intelligence projections indicate German standing patrols in this area number 8 to 12 aircraft. If Shomo and Lipscomb fight, they'll be outnumbered at least 4 to 1. Standard orders demand an immediate retreat to friendly airspace. But Shomo sees the Focke-Wulfs diving on him through the scattered cumulus. 9 aircraft in 2 separate groups. He calculates angles, closure speeds, and the range to Lipscomb's hidden position above. The math just barely works. He puts his Mustang into a steeper dive, faking realistic terror as damaged prey. Black smoke streams thicker from the cowling as he deliberately runs the engine rich, burning fuel for visual impact. Georg-Peter Eder closes to 800 meters, then 600. His wingmen fan out into an attack formation. They never check their six. Before we continue, I am curious where you are watching from and what you know about farm boys becoming World War II fighter aces. Leave a comment below and tell me if you knew about William Shomo's Medal of Honor action. If you appreciate these detailed explorations of World War II aviation history, please hit subscribe. Getting the details right for these stories requires significant research, and your support makes the effort worthwhile. 11:47 hours, altitude 16,000 ft and dropping. Shomo sees the lead FW-190 close to 400 meters in his rearview mirror. He can see the muzzle flash from ranging bursts, the German pilot testing his aim, readying the kill shot. Timing is now critical. Shomo's left hand is on the throttle, his right on the stick. His feet apply pressure to the rudder pedals, a touch learned from years of guiding farm machinery over rough ground. The Mustang's airframe shakes as the Packard Merlin engine complains about the deliberately rich fuel mixture. Eder's swarm divides. 2 FW-190s swing out for bracketing attacks. The other 2 stay in direct pursuit. It is textbook. Cut off escape, focus firepower, and kill the target in one coordinated pass. 300 meters. Shomo's finger rests on the radio transmit key. 250 meters. He sees tracer rounds fly past his canopy. 20mm cannon shells miss by 3 meters because Eder is leading his target, expecting evasive moves that haven't happened. 200 meters. Shomo hits the radio. One word, now. 4,000 feet above, Paul Lipscomb rolls inverted and pulls into a vertical dive, pushing his airspeed indicator past 450 mph. His P-51 howls down through the thin clouds, unseen against the gray sky, until he bursts into the clear, directly over the German formation. The physics are harsh and absolute. Lipscomb's altitude advantage becomes kinetic energy. His Mustang dives like a peregrine falcon, and the Germans, committed to their attack on Shomo, cannot reverse course without losing the speed that is their lifeblood. Lipscomb's gun sight fixes on the trailing FW-190 in Eder's swarm. 6 50-caliber Browning machine guns fire at 300 meters, inside a range where a miss is almost impossible. Lipscomb mastered gunnery on the ranges at Eglin Field, Florida, but he mastered deflection shooting by watching his father drop ducks over Louisiana bayous. The principle is the same. Lead the target. Factor in relative motion. Squeeze smoothly. The FW-190 explodes. Lipscomb's armor-piercing, incendiary rounds tear through the engine, ignite fuel lines, and sever control cables. The German pilot Oberfeldwebel Klaus Möck, 23 confirmed kills, has no time to escape before his fighter blows up. Elapsed time, 8 seconds. Eder catches his wingman's death in his peripheral vision. Instinct and training engage. He breaks hard left, abandoning his attack on Shomo to meet the new threat from above. The G-forces crush him into his seat as the FW-190 yanks through a 6G turn that would cause an amateur pilot to black out. But the maneuver costs speed, altitude, and the situational awareness that kept him alive for 78 victories. Shomo breaks his feigned descent. He shoves the throttle to war emergency power, 61 inches of manifold pressure, and yanks the stick. The Mustang S nose swings up as Shomo trades diving speed for a climbing chandelle onto Eder S second wingman. The German pilot is fixated on Lipscomb, who is now in a turning fight with 2 other FW-190s from the second swarm. He never sees Shomo. Shomo fires from 200 meters. His first burst is low, stitching the FW-190's underside with 50-caliber rounds that puncture fuel tanks and hydraulic lines. His second burst, a 2-second pull that fires 120 rounds per gun, walks up the fuselage and into the cockpit. Lieutenant Franz Weber's fighter flips onto its back and spins toward the frozen forest. Elapsed time, 31 seconds. 2 German fighters gone. The trap has worked better than expected, but now the math takes over. 7 FW-190s are still flying. 2 P-51s versus 7 are still impossible odds by any sane measure. Except Eder's formation is broken. The German pilots scatter, abandoning the Schwarm's mutual support for individual desperate survival. Some dive low, hoping ground clutter breaks radar lock. Others climb for clouds. 2 turn to fight, but they turn into each other's paths, forcing evasive actions that waste vital seconds. Discipline shatters when death arrives without warning. Shomo and Lipscomb leverage the chaos. They don't fight as 2 planes. They fight as one unit, sharing tactical awareness developed over 3 months of nearly constant combat. Lipscomb calls targets. "Bandit breaking right. You're 12 wow high." Shomo answers, "Tally, engaging, check 6. They fly in complementary arcs, each turn positioning one Mustang to shield the other's vulnerable 6-0. When Lipscomb focuses on a target, Shomo clears his tail. When Shomo attacks, Lipscomb holds the high ground and calls out new threats. Eder sees the danger. He radios his formation to regroup, to restore the defensive discipline that might allow them to survive. But 4 of his planes are already gone, destroyed or fleeing, and the remaining pilots hear the panic in his voice. 14,000 feet. Shomo intercepts a diving FW-190. The German pilot, Feldwebel Ernst Hoffmann, tries to escape using the Focke-Wulf's superior dive speed, but Shomo doesn't follow. He leads, firing into the empty space where physics demands the FW-190 will be in 1.2 seconds. 50-50 caliber rounds meet Hoffmann's aircraft. The fighter's tail section shears off the fuselage. Elapsed time, 2 minutes 48 seconds. 4 German fighters destroyed. Lipscomb gets his second FW-190 with a high deflection shot, showing the Mustang's stability as a gun platform. The German plane, damaged in his first pass, ignites and spirals into the clouds, trailing black smoke. 5 destroyed. Eder sees his Staffel is being wiped out. He orders a full retreat, military authorization to disengage and save his remaining aircraft. 3 FW-190s break off, running at full throttle toward German lines, but Eder himself fatally decides to remain. Perhaps it is pride. The Knights cross ace, unwilling to run from 2 American pilots. Perhaps it is a tactical choice, to buy time for his surviving men to flee. Perhaps it is just the warrior's refusal to abandon his men as they die. He turns hard, climbing to engage Shomo in a head-on pass that becomes a test of nerve and accuracy. Both pilots fire at 400 meters. Cannon shells and machine gun bullets converge in the air between them. The closure speed is over 600 mph, giving each man less than 2 seconds of firing time before a collision. Shomo's rounds hit first. They slam into the FW-190's cowling. The BMW 801D radial engine, 1700 horsepower of precision German engineering, seizes catastrophically. Metal shards from the destroyed pistons tear through the firewall and into the cockpit. Eder's cannon shells miss. Not by much. Shomo hears them crack past his canopy, but in air combat, a miss by 3 meters is the same as a miss by 3 miles. The FW-190 pitches over. Eder tries to bail out, but his canopy is stuck. Shomo's rounds have jammed the release. He rides his crippled fighter down through 8,000 feet, 6,000, 4,000, still fighting the canopy, until the FW-190 hits the frozen ground 3 kilometers south of Malmedy. Elapsed time: 5 minutes 53 seconds. 6 Focke-Wulf 190s destroyed, 3 damaged fleeing, 1 Luftwaffe ace dead, 2 American pilots unharmed. The after-action review at the 82nd Fighter Group's base in Chievres, Belgium, takes 4 hours. Intelligence officers cannot reconcile Shomo's gun camera footage with the claim that 2 pilots destroyed 6 German fighters in less than 6 minutes. But the evidence is undeniable. The film shows every kill in grainy 16mm FW-190s disintegrating under 50 caliber fire, pilots trying to bail out, aircraft spinning into clouds or falling in flames. Gun cameras do not lie. The frame count confirms the timeline. The analysts need to know how. Major James Herron, the 82nd's operations officer, analyzes the tactical flow and finds 3 key factors that created the unbalanced victory. First, the bait and ambush tactic. Similar maneuvers appear in other fighter group reports, but they seldom work against veteran German formations. Luftwaffe veterans usually kept a tactical overwatch, with aircraft positioned to counter an ambush. Eder's failure to position top cover for his own attack was a catastrophic break from basic fighter doctrine. The analysts decide Eder's aggression overrode his caution. The sight of a damaged lone P-51 activated a predatory instinct that short-circuited tactical sense. Veterans who saw the baiting tactic more than once learned to see damaged planes as potential traps. Eder saw it for the first and last time. Second, the failure of German formation discipline. 8th Air Force intelligence gathered reports from dozens of fights in late 1944, noting a disturbing trend. Luftwaffe formations increasingly fell apart under surprise attack. The core issue was pilot experience. Germany's training system was collapsing as Allied bombing destroyed fuel production. New pilots arrived at combat units with 60 flight hours versus 300 hours in 1942. When Lipscomb killed the first FW-190, Eder's formation had at least 3 pilots with fewer than 10 combat missions. These rookies lacked the ingrained discipline to hold formation when attacked. They scattered, and scattered fighters are killed individually by opponents who maintain mutual support. Third, the Mustang's specific edge in turning fights. Technical analysis shows why Shomo and Lipscomb won the chaotic dogfight after the ambush. The P-51D's 1,000-plus mile radius comes from huge fuel tanks, 269 gallons internal, plus 2 75-gallon drop tanks. By December 1944, American pilots always dropped external tanks before fighting, but they still entered combat with full internal fuel. The FW-190, however, was operating at its maximum combat radius over the Ardennes. Eder's fighters had perhaps 30 minutes of combat fuel before they had to return or risk exhaustion. This time limit forced German pilots to either commit to a quick attack or disengage. They could not afford the long, maneuvering dogfights that American pilots, with fuel to burn, could easily sustain. When the fight lasted past 3 minutes, the Germans had an impossible choice: keep fighting with low fuel or try to escape from enemies who could chase them home. General Karl Spaatz, commander of U.S. Strategic Air Forces in Europe, gets the report and instantly orders the distribution of tactical bulletins about Shomo's fight. The key lessons are put in training materials for all 8th and 9th Air Force units. Damaged planes can be effective bait if adequate top cover is in ambush position. German pilots show predictable aggression toward lone targets. Exploit it. Maintain formation discipline, even in a surprise fight. The side that keeps mutual support wins. The shock wasn't that 2 skilled pilots defeated 9. Similar unbalanced wins happen in war when timing, position, and luck all align. The shock was that American pilots now had the tactical skill, aircraft superiority, and numbers to engineer these perfect alignments regularly. The Luftwaffe could no longer afford to trade kills at any ratio. They were losing the war of attrition, and they knew it. General Douglas MacArthur personally gives William Shomo the Medal of Honor on April 3, 1945. The citation reads, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty." It describes the 6-kill engagement. noting Shomo's actions happened in a single combat sortie, lasting less than 8 minutes from first contact to final kill. Paul Lipscomb receives the Distinguished Service Cross, the nation's second-highest award for valor, for his role. The ceremony is at Clark Field in the Philippines, where the 82nd Fighter Group moved to support operations against Japan. Shomo survives the war with 7 confirmed aerial victories and goes back to Pennsylvania, where he becomes a mechanical engineer for Westinghouse. He seldom speaks of the Medal of Honor action, brushing off questions with his usual humility. "I had a good airplane and a great wingman. The Germans made mistakes. Things happened fast." He dies in 1990, aged 69. The immediate tactical effect of the December 23rd fight spreads through Allied fighter groups in Europe. Gun camera footage from Shomo's Mustang becomes mandatory viewing in briefing rooms from England to Italy. Pilots study the attack angles, the split-second timing of Lipscomb's dive, and the complementary flying that let 2 planes dominate 9. Bait and ambush tactics show up more often in combat reports through January and February 1945. The 357th Fighter Group records 11 fights where damaged planes successfully lured Germans into ambushes. The tactic's effectiveness fades as Luftwaffe pilots learn to be more suspicious of stragglers, but it works until the war's end. The long-term impact goes beyond tactics. Post-war Air Force doctrine highlights the 2-ship fighting element with total mutual support. The Beres or Fluid 4 formation that rules jet-age combat comes directly from lessons learned by pilots like Shomo and Lipscomb. 2-ship elements, spread far enough for independent maneuvers, but close enough for instant mutual defense. Korean War F-86 pilots study World War II gun camera footage in advanced training. The rules are the same: maintain an energy advantage, exploit enemy errors, and keep formation discipline in chaotic fights. Colonel Francis Gabreski, who flew P-47s in Europe before leading F-86 in Korea, directly credits World War II tactical innovations. "We didn't invent fighter combat in Korea. We refined what guys like Shomo proved worked." Historical analysis puts the December 23rd fight in the wider context of Allied air supremacy in late 1944. The Luftwaffe loses 456 fighters during the Battle of the Bulge, destroyed in combat, captured on airfields, or abandoned from lack of fuel. German fighter production actually rises through December 1944, but pilot quality collapses. The Luftwaffe can build planes. It cannot replace men like Georg-Peter Eder. Records from the Bundesarchiv in Freiburg confirm Eder's death and list his final score: 78 confirmed victories, 26 on the Eastern Front, 52 in the West. He is buried in the German military cemetery at Lommel, Belgium, with 38,000 other German soldiers who died in the West. His obituary in Luftwaffe personnel files includes this note from his commander: "An aggressive fighter pilot whose skill was exceeded only by his courage. His death represents an irreplaceable loss to the Reich." By December 1944, Germany has too many irreplaceable losses. Wars are won by nations, but battles are determined by individuals making split-second choices under impossible stress. William Shomo grew up fixing tractors and shooting pheasants, skills that seemed useless in modern industrial war. Yet those farm boy skills, mechanical intuition, situational awareness, instinctive marksmanship, translated perfectly to aerial combat. The Luftwaffe's aristocratic command never grasped this. They thought warrior skill came from selective breeding and rigorous indoctrination, that years of military tradition created inherent superiority over American pilots just out of civilian life. Georg-Peter Eder took this belief into combat on December 23, 1944. He saw a damaged plane flown by a farm boy and assumed an easy kill. He assumed wrong. The underestimation was fatal. Not because Eder was unskilled or cowardly. His 78 victories proved otherwise. It was fatal because he failed to see that competence comes from unlikely places when required. The Pennsylvania farm boy who learned deflection shooting for dinner had the same fundamental skills as the Prussian ace who learned them at military academies. The distinction was resources, numbers, and the industrial might to provide skilled pilots with fuel, ammunition, and aircraft capable of dominating Europe's airspace. A single navigation mistake, a single tactical trap, 9 German fighters obliterated in 6 minutes of brutal combat over a frozen French forest. Superior technology matters, superior numbers matter more. But ultimately, wars come down to this: individuals in cockpits making decisions that cannot be undone, fighting for causes bigger than themselves, while history watches and keeps score. If this story fascinated you as much as it did me while researching, I would be grateful if you liked this video and subscribe to the channel. Dozens of other untold World War II stories deserve remembrance, and I plan to bring you a new one weekly. What topic should I cover next?